Hi guys, time out to the trail here. Today we are at Lake Hope and we are standing in front of the Hope Furnace. And we are here for an event called Tunnel Vision. We're going to head up to the Moonville Tunnel and explore that area, learn about the history and what's in store for it for the future. So we'll share that with you guys and we're looking forward to a day together here. Allie, you ready for an adventure? All right, Aaliyah?
Yeah.
Scott?
Of course. We'll see you guys here in a little bit.
Here, while we are in the midst of this furnace, I do want to share a little bit of history about it, in case you didn't read it for yourself. This is the Hope Furnace. It was active from 1854 to 1874, so 55 is when the King's Hollow Tunnel, or King Tunnel, or King Switch Tunnel, it has lots of names, was built. So this was just right before that, and just right after Moonville Tunnel was built. So the reason for this furnace and other furnaces in the area was it smelted iron ore. So we have a lot of iron, or had at least, a lot of iron ore in the area. We have a lot of coal in the area, so there's lots of mines that were active in that period. And in order to separate the metal from the rock, you had to melt everything down. That's what smelting means. So they would dump a bunch of limestone in there, they would dump all of the ore in there from the top, and then as it melted, the metal would separate out and ooze out of the bottom of the furnace into these sort of like little molds, if you will, out of like sandish sort of stuff, and it would create these pig irons or pig bricks, which are, I'm doing this, but they were large, like this. And that's what they would use to ship on the railroad further east to be refined into munitions for the Civil War. The USS Monitor, which was a ship that was used during the Civil War, they used the iron from this region for that ship in particular. So we have a direct connection to one of the big wars here in our country, or in our birthing country, I guess. So anyway, so that's why this furnace was here. Like I said, there's several other furnaces in the area. There's actually 63 in what is called the Hanging Rock Iron region, and that extends from about where we are all the way down into northern Kentucky. So there's 63 iron furnaces in that area. If you would like to know more about iron furnaces, you can visit the Buckeye Iron Furnace, which is south of us about 45 minutes, and that's actually completely restored. It's not working, of course. We don't have a lot of iron ore to smelt, and they need to really here. But not only does it have this stack of stones where the smelting happened, but around the furnace itself, they restored all of the wooden structures, all the buildings. So where we're standing would have been where the bricks would have been cooling. Off to the right or left would have been where they were storing the lime or the ore that was getting dumped into it, off to one side or the other. And then there probably was horses and wagons and all sorts of stuff happening all over the place. If you're interested in the town of Hope, if you walk along the old Hollow Trail, which is right across the road from us, it's a 1.5-mile loop, and the cemetery of Hope is right on that trail. So you can check that out. The cemetery itself, you only have to walk about a little more than a half a mile to get to that. So you don't have to do the whole thing if you don't. But interesting information about the area itself. Are there any questions about the furnace? I don't want to really take up too much time because we're all here for the tunnel, right? Right. All right. In 1849, Scioto and Hocking Railroad, which was a company, was contracted by legislation to build the railroad to move goods from southern Ohio, such as the iron ore that I talked about earlier, coal, timber, further east, so that it could be refined, so that it could be created, help create something else. So in 1849, that's when the process started with legislation. Moonville, the town, not the tunnel, was actually also created that same year. And Samuel Coe was the property owner of where Moonville, the town, was. And when I say town, don't think that it was like a whole bunch of people. It was a pretty slow town. There were some bars. There was probably like some shacks. Maybe there was some sort of post office or place that they could store mail when they started moving it through the railroad line later on. But he actually wanted the railroad to go through his property because he was mining on his property. So he was like, hey, this will be a win-win situation. You guys have to go through in this general area. If you go through my property, it'll make it a lot easier for me to get my goods out. So that's why he proposed that they take the railroad line through what is now an abandoned Moonville Tunnel area for the town. So 1849. Oh, we have a breeze. May not work. All right. So shortly after that was when Moonville Tunnel was created, and they started over there and worked their way this direction. So 1855. Well, let's see how this works. 1855 is when King Hollow Tunnel was built. King's Hollow Tunnel, King Switch Tunnel. There are lots of names. The name King, as is with lots of other things, was the property owner's name here in this area. And if you look at the plot map that I have going around, you can see S.V. King is the owner of this whole stretch of property going in that direction, going up and to past where the tunnel is now. So in 1863, the railroad was sold from, remember, it was the Scioto Hocking Railroad. Now it's the Portsmouth and Newark Company. And it also started to, I think we have somebody coming from that direction. So if everybody wants to step into the grass. Thank you. Goods were being moved still. Life was grand. And then we get to 1 year later. We might need more people to help. I vastly underestimated the amount of wind. Okay, 1864. It goes to the Marietta and Cincinnati Company from Portsmouth and Newark Company. 1870. Big hats. That big hat circulating around the picture there. I had to put it in here because style is interesting as it changes throughout the years, isn't it? Then it comes back. Now we have big hats back in style. All right. 1887. Does anybody recognize the B&O name?
Sure.
Baltimore, Ohio. So it started in 1887, and actually it was part of the B&O for about 100 years. That's how long they operated it. Big company. So 87, I will say it's right around here. Okay, now we get to Moonville Tunnel disappearing. The iron industry is kind of waning. The Hope Furnace is no longer working. It hasn't been working since 1874. So Moonville disappears.
The war's over.
The war is over.
Yeah.
Yep, on a global scale. Yeah. All right. Now, fast forward 100 years. Like I said, the B&O took over in 1887, and now in 1980, almost 100 years later, we'll put it way over here. The B&O merges with the Chesapeake, Ohio Railroad, or the Chessie system. So, quite a long time there. And it was that until it started shutting down. In Moonville, in 1984, they shut the line down. The Chesapeake and Ohio turned into the CSX transportation, which is still active on rail lines all over the place. You can see CSX on railroad cars from here to California. Now, keep in mind, like I said, the rail line shut down, so they were not operating at this point in this area. And actually, a year later, the tracks were taken up. So from 88 until 1992, they were in the process of taking all the tracks up and out of the way. So there was absolutely no way that a train could accidentally merge onto our tracks in any way. Okay. So tracks are up. It looks relatively like what it looks like, just a little more grown up. And then in 2001, the Moonville Rail Trail Association was established by Neil Shaw. How many of you have been to the Moonville Tunnel? How many of you have been there in the past couple of years? So you probably walked over a nice new bridge that was built in 2016. It's the Neil Shaw Bridge. Because he was the founder of the Moonville Rail Trail Association, they named it after him. So in 2016, that bridge was built and you didn't have to walk through the muck and the mud along the trail. You could just go right over that bridge. And then, last one here, I'll get on the other side. A year later, after that bridge was built, in 2017, the Moonville Rail Trail Association applied for and received a grant of over $400,000 from ODOT's Alternative Transportation Grant Program. So they could continue improving the rail trail for non-vehicle users. So if you bike, if you walk, if you ride a horse, all that was capable because the Moonville Rail Trail helps keep it maintained. The president mowed it last weekend for us, so isn't that nice of him? Their plan, and I think I circulated the map around for the plan in the future, is Phase 1 was from Zaleski to the Hope Schoolhouse, and that was no creek crossings except for I think 1 or 2 there that were already still there and established. And then they're in the midst of Phase 2, which is Moonville Tunnel, from Hope Schoolhouse to Moonville Tunnel. They are working on 3 creek crossings there, which is what the grant is going towards. Late last year, part of that money, that grant money, went to engineering and designs for the creek crossings that will help establish that trail so that you can actually walk or bike or anything from the Hope Schoolhouse to Moonville. So they're kind of in the middle of that process. It takes a lot of money, a lot of time, but they're doing it. They already have that one in there right at Moonville Tunnel. That was the first one they wanted to put in. So if you guys want to drop this, you can. That way, 10 years or so that those will be done. They actually have some train trusses or a bridge truss that they moved up from Gallia County where down there they were redoing a bridge, and so of course recycling something like that saves a lot of money, of course. So it is actually sitting on the railroad tracks and in a cut-through area. If you're going towards Moonville, you'll see those.
Seen them.
You've seen them? Yep, they're just sitting there ready to be put in place, right? So they're saving money where they can. Of course, they're being good stewards of that grant, so that's a good thing. So hopefully, like I said, in the next 10 years or so, you'll be able to go the 2.5 miles from Hope Schoolhouse to Moonville Tunnel. And then, eventually, in the next phase, you'll be able to go another 2.5 miles or so from Moonville to here, this tunnel. There's several creek crossings also in between the two tunnels, so that's another thing that they'll have to work on raising funds for and all of that stuff.
Okay.
I thought you were talking to me. I want to go up there.
We'll go up there. I like my stick. Somebody might come around and find that and be like, oh, the Indians did that. It's a fossil.
What happened now? Tell me. Tell me, Mom. Tell me. What happened?
Nothing, honey. We're just laughing.
Daddy.
Here.
An airplane, please.
Break.
Okay, so here we are at the Kings Hollow Tunnel. This is a really nice event. We thought it went from Kings Hollow Tunnel to Moonville Tunnel. It does not. So what we're going to do is just show you a little bit of this tunnel, and then we're going to hop over to the other and show you a little bit of Moonville as well. Okay, so here we are on the other side of the tunnel, which is really neat because you can see the rock formations and stuff around it. One thing I wanted to note is that this past summer on Facebook there was a post going around that was talking about a hike through a tunnel that would lead you to an abandoned town, and that post was actually talking about the Kings Hollow Tunnel. And one thing from what I can tell that we learned that there are no abandoned towns nearby or any kind of ruins or anything. There were a lot of little towns long ago when the railroad was active and when it was being built and stuff, but those are all gone now. And I think the nearest little town is like 2 miles away. So, you know, nothing major, no scary ruins or anything like that. But there are some ghost stories about these tunnels, which we hope to learn about later because we missed the talk during the event.
Right.
Okay, we made it to the Moonville Tunnel. We're going to explore this one for a couple minutes. The baby's asleep, so we're not going to stay long. But I'll turn the camera around here and I'll show you a few things. This bridge, we were told, was just built within the last couple years or so. Before then, it looked like you had to hike down over the hill, cross a creek, and then back up the other side. So this bridge makes it really nice to come explore the tunnel.
There's stepping stones.
Stepping stones down over there.
Yeah, they're big. I'm assuming where this line of rocks is and that line of rocks is supposed to be the path. But if you had to, I guess you'd have to walk on those rocks.
Can't really see it. Oh, there we go.
That is a couple inches of water that you have to walk through though if you didn't walk on those rocks.
It'd be pretty risky business, but yeah, I guess you could step on the big rocks to get across. So you can see the path that comes up from the water, so they used to have to cross that somehow. Must be the big rocks down there, or just be willing to get your feet wet. The bridge really makes it nice. Are you awake now? You see a tunnel? You want to go explore the tunnel?
You ready to walk? It looks like Vampirina. You're so silly. The M and the I are gone. You can walk up that. Oh, really? Aw, why do you have to graffiti it? Looks like Sam was here too.
Yeah, this tunnel's not as big, and it is absolutely covered with graffiti.
Allie. That's your be a hornet's nest or something.
What do you suppose those steps were for? Besides graffiti.
It smells like
Allie, come here. Come out of the tunnel.
Okay.
Hey, look up.
Wow. Dad, how you get out there?
Where was it? Come down this. Allie, hey, Aaliyah, why are you going up that way?
Because you were going to go down it. I wanted for a point.
I'm not going down that way.
You're doing a good job. You almost made it.
I made it this far without my hands. That's nice. Oh, nice little seat. I'm dangling. Yeah! Woo-hoo! This is awesome.
I want to see what that is up there.
I can walk along this.
Let's not.
Somebody's parents let them.
Well, somebody's parents are dumb. Okay? That's how people get hurt.
Show me how it's done. Jump.
No.
I will jump from right here and land on my 2 feet if you can jump from there and land on yours.
There's a difference between
Sit on your butt and scoot. You're going to end up on it anyway. You might as well make it easy.
He's pointing. That's
Did we learn a lesson?
I wanted to see what it was. It's a spray paint can.
Stay on trail.
Spray paint.
See, this is how you jump from tall things and stay on your feet, Scott. When you land, you bend with the momentum. Watch.
Come on, Allie.
Squat. E.T. What's on your finger?
Dirt.
What'd you say?
I think she said butter.
Here, wipe it on my...
Man, this graffiti is terrible.
It is.
I mean, why would...
This is like intense art right here.
Intense, is it?
Why do people do this?
Maybe they should have like a designated
This
place.
is drunken. That's probably why. They're drunken. Here's Aaron Wade. Somebody loves him. Look, Scott.
Somebody loves him.
Scott and Renee.
You got some splaining to do.
Yeah.
8/6/19.
Here's Youngblood. And Renee. So she's dating Scott and Youngblood.
That's his trail name.
That's bad that they do this. Allie! Allie!
At least this one's not as muddy.
Yeah.
Well, at least it wasn't like North Carolina where we drove up and down and only could go 10 mile an hour. Remember that?
Well, that was the mountains, so...
How do you what? Look, re-prepared in 1903 and 1904, and then somebody just graffitied over.
That's probably good.
How are we getting down?
Yeah, I'm not.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. There's. It's a little harder way that way.
Can I climb this tree?
No, because I don't trust that tree falling.
Alright, Gene.
Let's have service.
Oh, thank you, baby.
Oh, hibbits.
What did we learn from this experience, sis? Anytime you want to climb something, you might as well do it. If there's a way up, watch out, because he's running. Yeah, they probably sacrificed kittens in here.
I think this tunnel's bigger. No, it's not. It's shorter.
It's definitely shorter.
It might be wider. It feels that way because it's not. She just said when I grow bigger, I'm going to get a tattoo.
No, you're not.
Can you imagine how big this tunnel looks to her?
Okay, so this concludes our exploration of the tunnels. You can hike from the Kings Hollow Tunnel to the Moonville Tunnel, and it's about a 2-mile hike is what we were told. We actually chose to drive just because of time issues, and we have other events going on today, so we just drove to each one and explored them, and it was really neat. Allie really liked the tunnels, and we had a good time. It was a nice little, I guess, trip off the beaten path here. Okay, and that concludes our trip.
I'm out. The trip. Bye-bye.
So thanks for watching
Thanks for watching. See you next time.
on